Hello, and thank you for joining me. This is Miss Berry speaking to you for the presentation at JUKO 2020 titled What Parents Can Do Now. We are going to jump right into it. A lot of you should be at this session because you want to know, okay, my son or daughter is a junior. How can I begin to help myself, but also help my child? So this session should give you some information that you can take away, hopefully, and asking yourself what you can do now. First and foremost, I think it's super important that we begin by addressing what junior year actually looks like through the eyes of your child. There was a recent study, a researcher that conducted through New York University in the United States, and the study showed that students feel that their life is on repeat. That they're doing school, homework, activities, sleep, and then start it all over again. Also, they feel burdened. They are faced with daily tasks such as schoolwork, college applications, extracurricular activities, and parental expectations that all contribute to their stress levels. At ISM, we aren't very different. I think that this is a situation that is felt around the world. Most students at age 15 are the same anywhere else. You can see here that we as a counseling department will take periodic stress level temperature reads from the students. This is a question, how would you rate your stress level at this point? We received almost the entire student body of the class with 181 responses. And a majority of the students said that their stress level was a 7, with 10 being the highest. 42 responses were at 7, but if you add 6, 7, 8, you'll see that a lot of the responses are within sort of that benchmark. Also, we ask questions like, how much pressure do you feel from yourself, from your family, or from your peers when it comes to the following? And we separated it into academic performance, standardized testing, college applications, and social pressure. You could see that the green and purple are high and very high. And the first 3 questions, or sort of sections that we asked them in, for criteria, all remarked as high or very high. There's very little social pressure at ISM, which is interesting, but a lot of the students are feeling a high to very high pressure when it comes to everything else that's surrounding them. This NYU study was specifically geared towards examining top high school students' stress and their coping mechanisms. What it did was it studied specifically the private school setting where families pay substantial rates for a private education and tend to be affluent. And what the study shows is that in this specific sector, there are unique pressures and expectations for our students. The study shows that there's a growing awareness of youths who experience high levels of chronic stress, and that can impact their academic success, compromise their mental health, and foster risk behavior. This is most typically seen in the grade 11 for our juniors, as it's the point in which students consolidate their portfolios in preparation for college applications. I've included the link to this study because I found it really, really interesting. And unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go into all of the details, but it is here in case you are interested at the bottom of the slide. The research found that out of 181 or 186 students that they studied, there was at least 3 hours of reported homework per night. They all, the majority said, more than half said that they had high motivation levels. However, girls tended to be more motivated than the boys. Additionally, almost half said that they were stressed on a daily basis. Again, surprisingly, the girls tended to be more stressed than the boys. And also, something that I think was quite outstanding was the fact that 26% of this sort of population reported that they had symptoms of depression at a clinically significant level. Most of the stress was due to grades, homework, and preparing for college in regards to both genders, which is quite insightful. Again, to find out more information about the study, please click on the link at the bottom of the slide. The question you might be asking yourself, but why? Why is it that my student is so stressed? And I think that it's not just students, but also schools, parents, and students all feel caught in this cycle of escalating demands and expectations. Students and parents are enrolled in this expensive education. They are hoping that they get something, quote unquote, get something out of this expensive education, like an acceptance to a prestigious college with a high ranking. There's also competition amongst the students and even amongst the parents. I think that it's important to note that our students do feel like they are asked to be worked incredibly hard, sometimes even harder than adults, with little time for relaxation or creativity. The college application cycle or process is becoming increasingly demanding every year. And competitive. And I think that competition gets sort of ingrained in the culture and in the cycle. And it's something that our counseling department really struggles with, and something that we try to work with our students and our community to help encourage mental health, and make sure our students are having a balanced life. So what are they facing? I think our students are facing a lot of fear. They're facing right now isolation. They are facing challenges with online learning. They're nervous about the future, and they don't know what it's going to look like. We also, as adults, and as educators, aren't sure what it's going to look like. And that can provoke a lot of fear, but it's always important to take a deep breath, remind yourself and your student that you take each day as it comes, and you can only do the best that you can do. And I think that should be a resounding message throughout this entire presentation. For junior year, your students will have three main pillars. Their academics will be one funnel, their extracurriculars should be another funnel, and their interpersonal skills should be a third funnel. And it's important that all of these are fostered and nurtured to make sure that your student is paying attention to all of these areas. I think that it's important for a student to be academically successful, but also to be balanced and make sure that they have an outlet. Sometimes students find their outlets to be extracurricular activities, whether it's sports or community service. It could be hanging out with the family, or doing some sort of service project, or also doing something that's fun for them and building their interpersonal skills. Also, there is the college aspect of junior year. Currently, we are in the fall of junior year, where students have already participated in Bearcats and Beyond. They've begun exploring a little bit of what the college research should look like. Hopefully, they've attended, and you have attended, some college virtual visits. Obviously, testing right now has kind of been put on hold with COVID, but that may change after the new year. And it's also important that students in the fall have been talking about college applications and preparing for that, whether that means enrolling in a new club or starting to think about college essays, or maybe talking with students that graduated and asking and inquiring more questions. Next semester is really when the research should significantly begin. I think you'll have the opportunity with a junior college interview with your student's counselor to talk about what your expectations are, what your students' expectations are, and how college research can continue. It is encouraged to continue looking at different websites, taking virtual tours, talking with students or alumni, reaching out to professors and admission officers, recognizing if college tests will be needed. Many of the schools in the United States have absolutely waived standardized testing, not only for this application year, but for next year as well. And for the summertime, right before senior year, that's when students and families should really begin honing down and narrowing the list of schools that they want to apply to. You'll go over rules and regulations that are at ISM in terms of how we like to see a college list and how you can create a college list. If you have the opportunity to visit universities, that could be super helpful in the research process. And then, if necessary, like I said, the college application essays can begin to take place as well during the summer. There should be discussions at home and in school, talking about expectations for what you want to see in your student, what your students want to see in of themselves. Also talking about what universities expect. There is a sort of a very big range when it comes to universities, ranging all the way from community colleges to large research institutions to small private liberal arts schools, and they all have a different location, a different price point, different majors that they offer, and a type of school. And at our school, at ISM, our counseling department really focuses on what's the best fit for the student. And that's something that these conversations can hopefully help you find out. Now, information from the experts. When I say experts, I'm talking about those that have gone through the application process. We always sort of survey our students once they have graduated and completed their application process to gain some insight from them and to pass it on to the next cohort and the next batch that will soon go through this experience themselves. 45% of the graduating class say that you should start the process early. I cannot say that enough to my students. Now is not necessarily too early. So as you are participating in this seminar or workshop, keep that in mind. It's never too late to start, and it's also never too early to start. I think it's important that 43% of the students talked about essays, whether that's starting your essay, thinking about your essay, drafting your essay. It's important that you are prepared for that. Maybe your student's application doesn't require one, and if not, that's important to know so it's not wasted time working on an essay that isn't needed. Students also mention choose what you want, not what your parents want. That may be difficult to hear, but it's also important that you give your student that freedom. Let them sort of explore what their interests are, not necessarily what your interests were or are, and what you wished you could have studied. It's important that the students have that opportunity and liberty to explore that themselves. Make sure that the students and you are also organized. My students really highlight organization when it comes to applications. You might be applying to multiple regions of the world. You might be applying to different types of institutions, and it's hard to keep track of it all. So it is important that you somehow keep organized, whether that's a family organizational chart, something on the refrigerator, a massive whiteboard in a study room, or just having a spreadsheet that's located on the student's phone or a student's computer. But be organized is key. Also, keep in mind, our experts say that it's more than the rankings. It is a lot about how you, as a student, fit into each school. And of course, don't wait for your early decision results to come out before you start your other applications. I think that goes hand in hand with keeping organized. As a parent, you want to ask yourself, okay, how involved am I now? Do I anticipate that changing? Do I want to become more involved? Or do I want to let my student have their independence and tackle this on their own? What expectations do I have? Will they change now that my student is an upperclassman and in their junior year? Do my expectations increase or hinder my students' motivation? And if so, how can that be changed? You might want to ask yourself, how much freedom do I want to allow my student during this college process? Do I want my student to take ownership over everything, or can I also step in and be that sort of safety net for them? And make sure, or a question you want to ask, are you and your spouse on the same page? Sometimes it may be, without even knowing it, that you and your spouse have different expectations and have different realities. It's important that before the junior interview that you do talk about these things and make sure that you're on the same page with each other, and also with your student. Junior year really has two important things, tangibles and the intangibles. The tangible stuff in regards to the college application deals with the grades and the scores. You know, you're getting numbers and you're getting results. They're things that you can hold in your hand and things that you can create and have control over. The intangible stuff is the work ethic and persistence, the student's character that can be built, the relationships that are being fostered with faculty and with peers, how a student handles organizing, the ability to read and write, and their adaptability and flexibility with online learning, for example. And it's important to think about those things moving forward. The intangible stuff is important to the college process because it can show your work ethic or the student's work ethic, especially when it comes to obviously grades. The character, of course, will be reflected in letters of recommendation and possible college essays. Relationships with faculty will also be helpful for letters of recommendation. If a student has a strong relationship with a faculty member, it's possible that the letter of recommendation could be stronger because there's a relationship there. The writing ability is also super important when it comes to applying to universities that require an essay or a personal statement. It can showcase the student's success and creativity. It can showcase, what they're capable of achieving at college level. And of course, being organized, whether the student's applying to multiple regions of the world, you do need to make sure that they are on top of that. So as a parent, how do you nurture character? First and foremost, I think it's important to encourage teens in it of itself. It's important to encourage them to be self-reflective, to set personal boundaries, to make sure that they are aware of their likes, dislikes, their interests, what they're thankful for and grateful for. And of course, to make sure you honor commitments. whether that's with family or with friends, whether it's keeping a play date or keeping a meeting deadline. I think all of those are commitments that should be important and should be kept. There's a quote here saying, raising children is an uncertain thing. Success is reached only after a life of battle and worry. Also, you cannot dream yourself into a character. You must hammer and forge yourself into one. And this is something that you as a parent can do with your student. As a parent, you take on more than just the parental role or the parental figure. You also serve as a counselor, as an organizer, as a timekeeper, a sleep enforcer, maybe even a consultant, and the trainer of life skills. How do you do it all, and how do you wear all of these hats and be successful at it? Well, I think when you have to be the counselor, it's important that you're reminding your students and yourself on how to listen. You want to make sure that you are modeling strong communication, that you participate in active listening instead of passive listening, that you let your students know that you will be proud of them no matter what, and that at times you might have to agree to disagree. When you're speaking with your students, you want to make sure that you're not criticizing. Maybe you're offering suggestions or input, that you're communicating regularly, not only when times are difficult or when they've done a good job. Make sure that you take time outs. It's important as a parent that you sort of recognize when maybe you're losing your cool or that you've stepped out of line and that you need to sort of back away before you say something that you could regret. And I think it's also very important when you're speaking with your student that you do admit if you're wrong. Show them that you can't always be right. And it is okay to be wrong sometimes. As an organizer, a parent should definitely encourage your students to attend workshops. We as a counseling department try really hard to make sure we provide you with all of the appropriate resources. So please keep in touch with us. Make sure that you meet with the counselors or reach out to teachers. Feel free to call us or to send us emails. It's important that you use the website CALFO. You should have been introduced to that, and that is a great tool and organizer when you're participating in the college planning. Soon you'll be receiving a college parent survey. That is helpful information for us as counselors to understand a little bit more about you and the relationship with the student and your opinion of your student. It gives us a different perspective. And of course, you do want to be aware of deadlines. It's hard when students are responsible for it all, so it's always helpful to have an extra set of eyes on these deadlines. As the timekeeper, it is very important that you as a timekeeper are aware of what your child does, whether they are up all night or whether they're studying relentlessly or playing video games. This generation of teenagers is probably the most sleep deprived the world has ever seen. And it's super important that you are enforcing sleep, that you encourage naps, that you encourage that they sleep in a little bit. It's okay on the weekends or an hour extra here or there. Try and encourage a bedtime routine. Yeah, it may be hard when your student is 16, 17, maybe 18 years old to be an enforcer, but it's also very important in order for students to achieve success that they have the appropriate amounts of sleep. If they need to scale back on activities in order to sleep or remove technology and set boundaries, please encourage them to do that. As a parent, you're going to be the consultant. You're going to, they may ask you questions and say, so what do you think about this? Do you think it's important that I take this path or go this way? Encourage them to explore. But also make sure that you are realistic. When they want to explore, make sure that you set guidelines and boundaries for them of how they can explore, where they can explore. Maybe the United States is too expensive for you and your wallet. So look into somewhere else like the UK or the Netherlands, maybe your home country or the Philippines. It is important that you are making these things aware to your student and that there aren't secrets. It's important that you're guiding them, keeping track, like I said, of deadlines and having an extra set of eyes to pay attention to. Still, you do want to give them autonomy and let them feel like they can do this, but it doesn't help to have that extra support. And remember, this is about them. It's not about what you wish you could have done when you were younger and where you wish you could have gone when you had the opportunity to go to university. You're not necessarily repeating this. This is their experience, and it's important that you let them have this time and help them focus on them. Don't compare. Students with other classmates or other siblings. It's important that each student that's going through this is an individual and has their own unique experience. You may also have to be the life skill trainer. When they go to university, they will be hopefully independent and they will hopefully have some experience in terms of budgeting and how to deal with their expenses. They are not going to have you to rely on in order to pick up after themselves, to clean. They're going to need to learn how to cook, even if it's a basic meal, and how to turn on the stove or use the microwave. It's important that you teach them these life skills because soon they will be going off to university and soon they will be out of the house and fleeing the nest. And it's important that you give them those life skills now instead of sort of scrambling the last minute weeks before they head off to university, or worse yet, arrive to university and feel overwhelmed. It's important that you also prepare yourself. You have a lot on your plate, I'm sure, juggling work, possibly additional students in the family. Maybe you are in charge of sort of the household. So you most definitely probably have a lot to deal with on your own plate. So it's important that you are prepared yourself. Make sure that you are informed. Utilize the Friday Parent Bulletin. Utilize and take note of the emails from the college counseling or from the high school office. Remember that there are open lines of communication between the counseling department and you and the household. Please feel free to reach out to us, reach out to our secretaries, reach out to your individual student's counselor and ask questions. We might not have the answers for you, but we probably will be able to direct you with resources and encourage you to find different paths that maybe you didn't think of before. Be prepared for your child's departure and the changing dynamics that are going to happen with you as a parent, but also inside the house. Students may start to feel more independent than ever. They may start to get into the mentality of, oh, I'm headed off to university, Mom. I don't need you anymore. Oh, that's painful for me to even say out loud. I'm sorry. But it is something that I think it's important that you are prepared for as a parent, that this is natural and this is normal. These are things that will happen, and it's important that you're ready for them. Again, something that I can't highlight enough, please avoid competing with your friends, the coworkers, put down the Viber group chats, stay focused on what's happening inside the house, and don't worry about the buzz around you. If you have questions, concerns, or doubts, go directly to the source. Check in with your student's counselor or go to the university's website directly. They always have the most up-to-date information. Please make sure that you are dealing with this in an appropriate way. Make sure that you are prepared with coping strategies as well, whether that's encouraging sport and exercise for you or for your student. Make sure that you take part in preventative activities like good planning. Start now, as I said. It's never too soon to start the research process, but also maintain a balanced perspective on school and grades. If your student is achieving 4s and 5s right now, I don't think it's realistic for your student to achieve 7s in their senior year. I think that it's always important to encourage improvement, but also take it at face value. Remind a student that, whatever they're capable of, hopefully is their best, and that you are encouraging them to achieve their best. Remind your kids that through this process, there are going to be a lot of ups and downs. With every successful university admission, it should be reminded that it's about the student's choice of being happy a year from now. Maybe in the moment they received a rejection letter, and they're super sad about the rejection that they received, but keep in mind, hopefully they will get over this, and there will be an acceptance letter soon to follow. And it is important that every year our students face this, and every year our counselors see the highs and the lows. Sometimes there's the highest of highs, and sometimes there's the lowest of lows. And it's important for our parents to be that sounding board as well, and repeating the same message that the students are hearing in the counseling department. The admission process is not a judgment on the parents or their upbringing. It's super important that the students remember that this will not define me, and that they take pride in their applications and get excited through this process. It should be nerve-wracking, yes, but also an exciting time. They are taking the next step into their life. They're leaving what they knew. Some of them, they've been at ISM for 12 years, and now it's time to move on and move forward. And this should be a celebration as well. I think it's important that parents also go easy on themselves. Oftentimes, I don't think that parents show themselves enough compassion, and I think that it's good to be reminded that that no one's perfect. Parents aren't perfect, and students may often remind you of that, but it's okay to remind yourself of that too. You don't have to be, and nor are you expected to be perfect. Keep in mind that students aren't perfect either. But the big part is that they do want to make you proud, and they do care about what you think deep down inside. And they want this experience to also be a reflection of who they are and who you are. So please keep in mind, whenever you're incredibly mad at them in the moment, that hopefully that frustration and stress and anxiety passes, and you can keep focus that your student does want to make you proud and that they are trying their best. So hopefully you were able to take some information away from this session. I appreciate you for joining me on what parents can do now, and hope that this next year and a half go by seamlessly with few hiccups and with excitement. Thank you very much, and please feel free to reach out to any of the counselors. We are all here to support you and your students and to help make this process easier. Thank you very much.